Hello everyone, it's Anna, also known as That Star Wars Girl, and before the video starts, I just wanted to let everyone know that I have an IndieGoGo live right now of my very first comic book cover ever. So if you like me and you want to support my artwork, go on to IndieGoGo, the link is in the description below, and check out some of the tiers, and if you support it, it would mean the world to me. Thank you so much everyone, and now on to today's video.
He did. He wrote the script, which I'm sure a lot of people don't necessarily realize.
You just want to say, fuck you. Oh, fuck you, fuck you. Fuck you, fuck you. Fuck, 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 fuck you.
I'll tell you where I thought I came in. In the forest, when the lightsaber goes like this and flies off, I said, oh, what a great entrance, ah! But I don't think they prepared me correctly. You know, in other words, you know, I went to training and, you know, I lost all this weight and did all these things. And I thought, I must be doing something physical if they're sending me to the gym twice a week and torturing me physically. But saying, oh, by the way, you know all that workout where you lost all the weight? You're going to have to turn and remove your hood. I thought, oh,
Who is this guy? How did the most optimistic, hopeful character in the galaxy turn into this hermit who says it's time for the Jedi to end? I read that and I said, what? I mean, that's not what a Jedi does. I mean, a Jedi is optimistic. A Jedi has tenacity. He never gives up. He doesn't secrete himself on an island. But you'll.
What's up everyone, it's Anna, also known as That Star Wars Girl, and I was having fun making clips the other night, so I wanted to share them before we get started. So today, as you can tell by the thumbnail in the description of this video, I'm going to be talking about this comic book that I'm really excited about. I think I got introduced to it actually on John's channel for one of his like CG Presents shows, and then Ethan talked about it a few times on his show, and the more I see it, the more and more I like it. And as you guys know me, I'm super freaking nosy, and I want to know everything about everything. And let me do a screen share because I had it up and then I exited out of it because I boomer moment. So this is the campaign. The link for this is in the description of this video if you want to check it out. And also if my mods could drop it in periodically, that would be great. So it's a comic about a superhero, but instead of me explaining it, I have some of the creators here with me that are going to talk about it. So I'm going to introduce all of them, and they can talk about how they all came together and what they do for this comic. And then I get to ask all of my questions. So hello guys, welcome.
Hello. Hey, Anna, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're here. Piper's still in recovery.
Yeah.
At least her head looks fuller than it did.
Yeah. Look, see now the headset doesn't look as ginormous on like a little shrunken head or something.
Did you hear what Piper did for posterity and humanity the other day, Anna?
I did not.
So she felt outraged by the situation the country's going through, and so there was she started this shave your head Black Lives Matter challenge. And so yes, apparently Piper did it, and she was so embarrassed she decided to spread this meme on 4chan, and then of course
everybody else do it too.
That's right. So she's the viral innovator.
I am the hacker known as 4chan.
Yeah. No, she decided for some reason so we could beat the compilation book known as Deadbeats, which was done by a bunch of crazy SJW weirdos. That to put a little spice on it, if we could do it before the 60-day campaign was up, that she would shave her head.
Oh.
Now, she didn't specify that she would shave her whole head, but people were saying, you did say shave your head. So it became...
It was bad because I was debating about what to do with my hair because it had gotten, it used to be a mohawk, but it had gotten all shaggy and stuff from, you know, being stuck at home and everything. And I was debating on, well, am I done with the mohawk? Should I grow it all out now? Or should I decide should I shave it into a mohawk again now that I can, because it is really hot here. Unfortunately, the part that we put on the campaign and was just I'll shave my head. So I was like, well, crap. That is what that says. Yep, that's what that says right there.
Well, you just did it. You shaved your whole head.
So I shaved the whole thing, and it's really weird.
Oh my goodness. Well, that makes showers go by pretty fast.
It does. That is true. That's been nice. The extra air conditioning has been nice. The fabric sticking to my head has not been so nice. That's been really weird.
I would think that would make it hotter, right?
Yeah, it's weird. Like the way I sleep, I will get my blanket or sheet stuck to the side of my head, where I feel like I'm trapped under it. I'm like, get away from me. Changing shirts, it'll get stuck to my head like Velcro.
Oh,
and the one time that I've had to go out in public and run errands, I don't like the way it looks, so I put a hat on. And taking the hat back off, I thought I was going to rip this hat that my friend had knitted me because it did not want to come off of my head. But I've been sent a wig.
I'm surprised they didn't send you like a crazy rainbow color wig or something.
Fingers crossed. I have some like crazy cosplay wigs. It's just the synthetic hair gets itchy real fast, especially if it's hot. So this is like my first real human hair wig.
Ugh.
And I know
surreal,
but it's so soft. It's so cool, and it's not quite as high maintenance as a synthetic wig, and it doesn't tangle and not like a synthetic one. So it's I'm having fun.
There you go. Well, that's good as long as you're having fun with it. So, do you guys want to kind of talk about what you guys all do for the book, and then how you guys came together with the idea to form this and like to work on this all together?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a pretty interesting kind of, it's a total CG kind of thing, how we came together and how this kind of got the ball rolling. So, for instance, I started, writing Door Kickers last year. I had the campaign going, and, as you want is when you're doing in campaign mode, you're trying to get the word out to everybody. So one of the places I wanted to go was Graded 0.5 because they've got a great audience, just like you, you're always looking for channels that have cool, engaged audiences. And so I approached Optimus, and so he had me on, very gracious. We got along great on the stream. And after the stream ended, as one is to do, you keep talking. And we ended up talking, Optimus, what was it, about 2 hours afterwards?
It was about 2 hours, because what had happened during that stream, we started, of course, talking about superheroes and how they're not really superheroes anymore,
and how the mainstream industry has just tried to deconstruct superheroes to the point where, you strip away everything. And of course, I mean, I don't want to get into politics too much, but of course there's an agenda behind that that's kind of driving why that's happening. And so, what we all miss is just, I'm in my mid 40s. I grew up on a steady diet of 70s and 80s comics, specifically the Uncanny X-Men and things like that, deep story driven comics with rich characters that had real lives, and so that's what I always wanted to do, that kind of a comic. And so we talked about that on the stream, and then afterwards at the end of the stream we kept talking, and we talked about the deconstruction of comics. And I think it was Xavier, Optimus, you correct me if I'm wrong, but he's the one that really kind of talked about a reconstruction and the idea of a new universe of comics that would exist together in a reconstructed universe. So basically reconstructing the types of mythical heroes that we used to have that we just don't have anymore.
Yeah, that was... because basically we talked about it, and they said, I said, I think we might have something here. And so Xavier and I sat down. Xavier is a freaking machine. When he says, I'm going to go do a lore document. 2 days later, he said, okay, here it is. And it was like 60 pages. Like, good God, son.
Yeah, it was long. It was long.
Yes.
Well, the cool thing about it is that, it's definitely not a chicken or the egg, what came first, right?
Yeah.
What came first was the discussion about what would an iconic new superhero be. And we like the idea of having a female hero because, one of the things that I always go back to in these type of discussions is the New Mutants, right? The New Mutants back in the 80s when Chris Claremont did that. It was a graphic novel first, and then it was a comic series later. Was he took the most diverse group of people that you've ever seen in the 80s. You had a bunch of women, you had one white guy, a person of color from Brazil, Irish girl, an Indian, Native American girl, and I'm forgetting the last one. Anyway, there were 5 of them. There's 3 girls and two guys, only one white guy. So it was a total diverse cast, but it wasn't about diversity back then. It was about good storytelling and unique backgrounds and everything that we care about in comics. And so we're like, well, if we had our female superhero, why would she be what she is? Well, we all hate the Mary Sue that we like we see with Rey in Star Wars. She just born awesome, like that. She just, appeared out of nowhere, was awesome for no reason. Well, I mean, our character has powers, but she's not awesome with them yet. She has a backstory and it's full of pain. And in order for you to understand her, you have to understand her backstory. And page 1 of our book is a funeral, right? So it's very much, she's very tied to her emotional struggle. So, and so Peregrine was the beginning of that. So we kind of, all 3 of us kind of talked about what, the idea. We came up with a name, and then Xavier really ran with it as far as kind of like, okay, so what kind of world would she be in? And I think Xavier was the one that came up with the idea of a cataclysmic event in our initial discussion. And so we just started kind of building the mythology around this book over time. And, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I had just finished Outdoor Kickers and I was ready to move on to my next thing. And this was just perfect timing for me. So I was writing the script, and Piper, you want to tell her how you got involved? That's kind of funny.
This is hilarious.
Yeah, because these butt heads started without me. And apparently, like, they're really good at keeping hush because they were doing all this while I was around, and I had no idea until Scott. Scott already thought I was a part of it, so he was trying to talk to me about it, and I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I know about a comic about a submarine. I don't know who's Jessica.
Who's Jessica?
Who are you talking about? Who's Jessica? Because it turns out when they had that conversation, I had to go to bed. So I went to bed.
You just went to bed like you usually do. As soon as we get off the stream, she's like, okay, I'm going to bed. Bye-bye. And she goes to bed.
Sometimes I'll chat a little bit. So, I was chatting like, yeah, that would be cool. I got to go to bed. And they never told me that the conversation went from that would be cool to, well, we can do this, to why are we not doing this? Nobody told me that. So yeah, it wasn't until a while later where Scott's trying to tell me about this book we're on, and I'm like, that's not a submarine.
In her defense, she handled it very well, and I was very happy because once I started sending her stuff, she's like, "Oh my God, this is definitely something I want to be involved in." So
yeah, it was funny because then I went to the graded Discord and I was like,
"Hey, are y'all doing a comic book?"
No, I was like, "Heard you were making a comic, like I wouldn't find out." Like,
yeah, it was. I was like. And then I remember I was like, I think I happened to be talking to Xavier, and I was like, yeah, we forgot to tell Piper, didn't we? Because we were trying to keep it kind of quiet, right? There are people that I know I talk to every day, and when I launched the mailing, when the mailing list was launched, they came to me. He's like, dude, I didn't know you were doing a book. I was like, surprise.
Oh, well, that's probably like the best surprise ever.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, you guys are doing this. Wow, you already have this much done. Oh my gosh, it's awesome. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say the enthusiasm though was like, oh shit, Piper. Yeah, check this out. Isn't this cool? And it wasn't like, well, I guess I'll let you look. No, it was like, oh yes, you would love this. Check this out. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yes, I agree. I love this. This is.
Well, let's be fair though. I think the thing that really sold Piper wasn't my, barely legible scribblings on the back of notepads. It was the amazing art from Doug Franchen. Doug is a guy that I've known since about 2014. He did the very first Door Kicker story. And even then, at that point, as a young artist, I knew I wanted to work again with him. And so when it came time I was like, hey, do you guys have somebody that you want to use as an artist? And they were like, well, we know a couple people. And I was like, well, I know a couple people too. So let's just kind of start reaching out. And at first I didn't reach out to him because he was busy last year with some stuff. And then I think it was December. I want to say it was December that I reached out to him and said, hey, this is going to be a paying gig. I think we'll make some good money on this book. Are you interested? And he said yes immediately. It was awesome that he did. We both wanted to work with each other again. We had kind of assumed it would be on Door Kickers, but this is great that it's this type of a book, because he's been doing a lot of superhero stuff since I've worked with him. Mm-hmm. And so he's really honed his craft. And like Ethan said on his channel the other day, Doug draws like classic DC and Marvel comics. I mean, the comics that we remember, that we fell in love with. And that's why I think Piper fell in love with this character. It's pages like the one you're showing right here that just showed her humanity and just... It shows the emotion, too. That's exactly right.
And it's beautiful as well. Like, I look at this and I'm like, wow, this is really pretty.
Yeah.
But can't you put yourself in that position? I mean, you're getting this thing that's connected to your deceased father, and you could just imagine that she can't hug her father anymore, but something like this that's connected to him. I mean, that's where that kind of emotional touch point comes from, and that's the kind of thing we're trying to build with this.
This is like deep stories is what makes a character relatable, not base traits on the surface. I have never read a comic and gone, man, I wish this character looked like me or something. It's been putting myself, what would I do? Yeah, what would I do if I was in that character's shoes? Oh, man. That's how you make a relatable character.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, I can't think of the book. I mean, it's on my shelf over there, but I have this book, and it was like, everybody said, oh, all these, comic, guys, all they care about is like girls with big boobies and this and that and the other and blah, 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 and I have I have a book. It was given to me. It was like it was an image book. I just can't think of the name of it right now. And yeah, it had a lot of that, just like, women with huge boobs and stuff like that. But the dialogue was terrible. It wasn't a good book, Mm-hmm. It didn't make me feel anything. So you can still, what I'm saying is you can have one or you can have the other, but if you have both, it's it's a magical thing.
Yeah. So the ironic thing about the criticism you see from SJW, Marvel, and DC is, okay, in order for this character to be relatable, she has to have a fat butt and whatever, right? And so, okay, well, I mean, that's not to say that you couldn't have a hero with that kind of stuff, but let's face it, heroes go through extreme physical, trials, right? And in order to do that, you have to be physically ready to do it. You can't be sitting down to take a break every 15 minutes. And so there is a reason why somebody would be fit. Okay, well, so, all right, so then you've got the thin kind of like a gymnast kind of superhero character. Well, that's fine too. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that body type. But okay, so you got one that's like that, and you got one that's a bombshell, that's voluptuous. All right. Okay, so why can't you have both?
Make it match their powers or abilities.
Ultimately,
make it a little sense.
I think and a lot of times you grab them with the physical kind of characteristics. It's like a relationship. You're attracted immediately with your eyes, but it's really your brain that keeps you around, and the depth, like Piper said, in the characters. I'll be honest with you, even our side characters have pretty in-depth backstories. So, we're not necessarily going to scratch the surface with a lot of these guys, but ultimately, I think there are plans for a lot of these characters to have their own stories down the line.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, immediately when I saw this, the first thing I think, I'm like, wow, like this is a great like opening image. It looks like a movie poster. Like, you know, when you're walking along the theater and you're walking in, you see like, oh, that movie coming soon. That, and I was like, oh, I don't know what this movie is about, but I want to see it. And then I see like her, and then obviously this is her. So I'm like, oh, so her costume is going to evolve from like this one to this one. Cause this looks like it's her workout or like costume. And this is like when she becomes like like Mr. Incredible and this also goes along with the whole body thing. And that's why like when people, especially the snowflake and safe space, and they have the trailblazer, and I'm like, all right, if you're going to be running up the stairs and fighting criminals, you're going to have to be able to do that. And that's why Mr. Incredible, he's got the dad bod, and then he has to go work out because he's like,
that's right.
I can keep running from this stuff.
Well, you know? My thought is even a hero, who can, lift 50 tons, if they work out a little bit, they can then lift 60 tons. And so, you know what I mean? There's got to be some sort of a corollary. If there is a biological function within them that allows them to be that strong, that still suspends some disbelief. But still, if you draw that line, then ultimately working out will make you better, no matter if you can only press 100 pounds or if you can press 100 tons. So, I mean, look at the Hulk. I mean, just look how jacked he gets when he gets even stronger, So, I mean, he goes from, so, I mean, there is, and the idea is that Jessica, she's got these powers from birth. And so, she comes into the story not being an active superhero. So, I mean, there is a learning curve for her and how to, interact with her environment as a hero. So and that's part of the story.
Yeah. And I mean, just from this thing, I'm like, all right, somebody died. I'm assuming it might have been this person, unless this dude is this person. But just from like this costume to that, I'm like, okay, so there's going to be like an evolution of a character in this. I like that. I like it when there's like that complete like starting point, rising action, climax, falling action, then the resolution. I like complete stories. Even how many pages is this going to be?
It's 48 pages.
Okay. So I'm assuming it's going to leave off on some intense cliffhanger that's going to drive me insane.
No.
It's going to be a full story, but our villain, which I like, if you've ever watched Gargoyles.
Yes. Then
you know the term the Xanatos Gambit.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, our villain is always working the angles, right? He's like, okay, this didn't work out this time, but I learned a lot from this, so I can use this now. Kind of.
It's like a villain that evolves as the character evolves.
The interesting when we kind of needed that, kind of villain to fill that role. I mean, I'll be honest with you, he wasn't driving the train; she was driving the train, and so coming up with the villain was an afterthought for me. But ultimately, I really liked this villain because he's got the kind of powers that would allow him to be a street level, competent, super villain, just like the one Spider-Man fights, the villain of the week kind of. But the thing is that even though he has this power, his brain is way more powerful. The schemes and scams that he comes up with are the things that really drive this story. And it's not his power, and he's powered. He has power. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it to get into how he uses his powers, but ultimately, his powers are just kind of like he could not have those powers and probably still have carried this exact same plan off. So his powers don't drive the train.
I like I said, that's why I liken him to Xanatos or Lex Luthor, or it's his his ability, like Scott said, his ability to scheme. He's always got an angle, even when he is defeated, quote unquote, he wins somehow. So
yeah. So it's like you might have won the battle, but you lost the war.
Well, and in some cases, maybe he gets what he wants while the heroes think that they won the fight. You know what I mean? It's kind of like so it's like just this wasn't a defeat. This was just step one.
Yeah, there's always another angle, and it's all
right.
Part
Exactly.
Of the plan.
I do hate super cliffhangers that force you to wait for another book to come out. So this is like this has a beginning, middle, end for what happens in this book. It's just the end. Yeah, the end is still left open-ended. It's enough to tease you for
you ready for the next one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And before you ask, Anna,
yes.
Peregrine 2 is in the works. Right up
Okay.
here. The three of us need to talk more about it, but trust me, there's a lot of stuff already the cogs already turning.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I'd hope so, because this is like it's a very iconic look. I hate pink, but I love yellow, and I like when pink and yellow are together. And so I saw this, and I was like, you guys made me like something I don't typically like.
It's funny because the costume colors are a result of the fans, the chats, because
really?
Yeah, we let them help pick,
because Doug put up a color of all like 4 different costumes of what it's like, and we all had our favorite, and we said we got to let let's get the people involved, right? So we put it out there, and they voted for the one we wanted. But it was still...
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is we started out with a basic kind of color palette that we wanted to use based on the fact that she's a 22-year-old girl, and she is her powers and name derived from the Peregrine Falcon. So that kind of like, that's the kind of thing that we were thinking with the color palette, but we didn't know if her costume was going to be mostly yellow, mostly white, mostly gray, pink. And there was a version that was more pink. Thank God nobody really loved that.
Very pink. I was getting worried because for a little bit that was actually starting to like,
oh no,
be up in the running, and I was like, "Who is voting?"
Well, I think we were all surprised by the color palettes that we ended up kind of liking. I mean, because I don't think any one of us just was like my way or a highway on this one. The thing that really shocked me was how well I thought yellow and gray went together. But ultimately, I think there were certain aesthetic things that kind of drove some of the things, such as like if you had a gray chest piece with the boob window and her skin tone, the contrast wouldn't be that good. So we're really kind of thinking about how she's going to appear on the page. And as Preston Acevedo in this image that you're showing off right now, I mean, he just actually, he captured everything that works in this, version of the cover.
Well, I thought it was supposed to be like a metallic type of material when I saw like the grays and everything, and so seeing like this painting, you can really tell the difference in the materials. I loved that. I was like, this looks nice. And the way that the costume is, so the grays like on the outside, it does that slim, like she doesn't need it, but it does the slimming effect, and it's like this is where you look, and then you obviously you see the boobies, but then you look at the shape of that, and then I'm assuming, because this is in your trailer, but this is the same. Like that's his symbol, and then that's the same symbol.
Yeah,
and I'm assuming that's your father.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that was the idea. The
his isn't a booby cutout though, unfortunately.
Right. His is more like a Batman kind of Superman kind of thing. So.
Okay. Well, I just realized I was like, I should have done this in the beginning, but I'm going to show the trailer.
Sure.
So and then we can. Let me exit because I don't think that this is sharing my audio. Hey.
Whoops. Well, don't worry. I've done it 100 times myself.
All right, there we
Boomer
go.
time.
Seriously, it always happens to me. Okay, let's pull that all the way up.
What happened to our heroes?
I used to think my father simply decided that the world needed Silver Falcon more than I needed my dad.
Can anyone step up?
Your heroes are dead.
Can the world endure?
They're gone.
Without the icon? Is there anyone left who can take up his mantle?
How did I only realize now how wrong I was?
48 full-colored pages of superhero action.
And what path should I choose going forward?
A return to the kind of comics that we know and love.
I'm ready.
Featuring illustrations by Douglas Franchi, who has worked on X-Men Blue and Halo Escalation. Interior colors by Farah Nurmaliza of Door Kickers, Super Harem, and College of the Dead 2. Now available on IndieGoGo.
That was fantastic.
Yep, I want to give a shout out to our brother Caleb. He's the one that put that trailer together for us. He's our Venezuelan boy. Like literally, he lives in Venezuela.
I think he'd be listening right now if he wasn't waiting in line somewhere for something.
No,
He's in the chat.
He's in chat right now. He
It's not water time.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah. His water ration time is later. Yeah, he just said, "Oh God, please get me out of here." Poor guy. But yeah, he put that together. He said he likes to brag. He said, "I did that on an 8-year-old PC held together with duct tape."
Nice.
So
bubblegum and baling wire.
Yeah.
So I saw people in the chat saying like they noticed the other statues. So I'm assuming that something happened to where all of the heroes didn't make it.
Yeah, So I mean, basically, it was a worldwide calamity. We don't really get into explaining a whole lot of that stuff. I mean, we just kind of mention it. There's going to be other stories that come later that that will
we're delving.
that will delve into it, and probably will delve into Silver Falcon's story. As he's a big figure in this universe.
Mm-hmm.
But
ever thought about doing like a little ash can along with the comic, kind of explaining?
We've talked about it.
Yeah,
we kind of thought about doing it this time, but at this point, we're just like, okay, we got so many extras as it is right now. We're trying to, it depends. If it comes down to it, we will. But of course, that would put it a little bit later. Than it's going to be, but
yeah. So we weren't sure how this was going to do. We know this is the kind of comic people want because I mean, we were all talking about it, whether it was on Twitter or in streams. Everybody wants this kind of a comic, and Comicsgate has a lot of different stuff, but for the most part, there just isn't a whole lot of just mainstream style superhero comics and within Comicsgate. Now there are some. I mean, there several pop into mind, but the point is that this was the kind of comic we wanted to do. We didn't know how it was going to be, so we didn't want to get too ambitious our first time around. That being said, we have a proven track record now. We will deliver on time or early, and I guarantee you, Peregrine 2 is going to probably have maybe like an ash can or some other kind of bonus backup story in the main graphic novel, something along those lines to kind of expand the universe. So it's just a matter of finding artists and people to work with to help tell that story.
Because we have a good. Basically, when we talk about Silver Falcon, who is her father, I describe him as he is apple pie. He is America, America, America. Yeah. The first act he does as a superhero is a history-changing event. And only a few people, if they signed up for our mailing list, they know that. Essentially, I mean, gosh, Piper, I'm going to ask for permission. You're the editor. Am I allowed to tell what he did?
Do it.
Am I allowed
he
to
did?
tell what he did in our universe?
It's out there already.
Yeah, you can say that because the special stuff for the mailing list people is they got to see the cool stuff about it that nobody else gets.
Like the little things we made for it and stuff like that. So, very special. Nobody else has seen this unless they've gotten the mailing list. Silver Falcon in our universe, the first thing he did was save the Challenger.
Oh.
Yeah, that it was a kind of a circumstantial thing. He already knew he knew of his powers. He knew he was literally fishing with his dad. Just having a good time with his dad, and then he heard something because, of course, superhearing. He said, looked at his dad, gotta go, took off, and I got to the point like if we ever have to write the story, I even went to the details of like how, what happened with the Challenger and stuff like that. So, like one of the things he does, like he comes back with the Challenger, carrying it essentially. And he doesn't land because he's so America apple pie. He needs permission to land it, at NASA. He's I'm not going to land until somebody says it's okay, kind of thing. So that's what. Okay. That's the kind of character that he is. It's all about helping people, and that's why when we timeline our universe, we have a before Silver Falcon, where there were. As Xavier had, Scott can attest, he did a great job of explaining there were always superpowered people, but it was always kept under wraps by the governments and things like that. Well, once a superpowered being saves the freaking Challenger,
in front of everybody,
in front of the entire world. You really can't hide that anymore.
Well,
Yeah.
and also, I mean, Super Falcon was the Michael Jordan of superheroes. You know, I mean, he just could do no wrong. You know, I'll be honest with you. It was very apropos that you posted that tweet of Christopher Reeves today, because that's very much how I kind of thought of Silver Falcon. He was trying to, you know, he was that, you know, important thing for so many people, you know, and the interesting thing is even somebody who has that kind of heart can make mistakes or can let somebody down. And that's really the kind of evolution of his interaction with his daughter. And that ultimately spurs her to become Peregrine. So there's a lot of deep lore, both in the near history, talking about what happened to Silver Falcon and the other heroes, and then also going back into history all the way to the origin of Silver Falcon and his and the world before he was around. So the other thing too, we haven't solidified this, but I think this is a kind of an obvious thing for our universe, is that people are going to age kind of normally. You know, Silver Falcon was a young man in the 80s, you know, and he was, you know, probably in his 50s when he died. So I mean, there's evolution of life.
Yeah, I worked it out in the when profiling, when Xavier and I were making the profiles. He would have been about 49, so getting ready to be 50. So yeah, he was up there. You know, he wasn't like ancient or anything, but he was up there.
Well, but here's the thing too: can a person like that truly age like a regular person?
Well, that's the key thing. Like, he may be, and he might get some gray hairs and stuff, but it doesn't mean he's like, Yeah,
he's not going to die the same way an old man dies. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason why it's such a shock that he does die, because nobody could have ever seen this coming.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny is just you guys talking about that and the backstory. You guys have put more thought into this comic book and these characters in this universe than anyone in the mainstream, whether it be in comics, movies, TV. Even they don't even give two glances to what they're working on now. So it's like this completely drew me in, and one of the reasons why I wanted to have you guys on was because you guys put no information on here about this story, and I'm like, I want to know more.
I as the writer, I think that kind of thing's important, but the rest of the team, and they're like, Scott, be quiet, just show the art, and people will buy the book. And I can't say they're wrong, because people buy in the book, and but Piper is like the spoiler Nazi here. So
yeah, I'm kind of the in between person. I'm like, we could let some things out.
If it's up to me, I'd give them the first 15 pages right now.
Well, I'm over here and I'm like, okay, somebody died. This lady's putting. It's like, did you ever read that Dr. Seuss book, like Wacky Wednesday, and you look at it and it's like you keep finding like more things, and I'm like, all right, so somebody died. Okay, this dude has a beard. This dude doesn't have a beard. There's superheroes here. Who are all these people? And I'm just like nosing through every single image, trying to figure it out.
So you saw Ian. You saw Ethan's stream the other day, where he was talking about this page in particular, about the little things he was finding in the art. I'd like to issue him his no prize as soon as I talk to him, because he said, well, this is a big deal. This is like their Superman dying. There'd be hundreds of thousands of people here at this funeral. Well,
that's what I thought. And I'm like, what happened?
But this is the private service for the friends and family before the public unveiling of the memorial. So, he wins his no prize by helping us kind of explain away the mistakes that we may have created in our own books. So
I thought it was always supposed to be that way to begin with.
No, this was before. Yeah.
Think about it. If Superman died, there'd be 1 million people go through there in a single day.
But you also got to remember that the world also just got trashed, so there might not be that many people able to be out there right now.
And on top of that, I can one thing I can say, I can guarantee you there's some other superheroes in that crowd.
Well, see, I saw this guy. Let me zoom in on this page because it's small. So I see this guy looking down, and so my thing, I'm like, all right, well, and again, like with the beard, and then this statue, he doesn't have one. So I'm like, did he like do something bad, and like, so this is like why there's not that many people there, because something bad happened, and so then she's gonna have to go redeem her like father's memory because there's some big government conspiracy and all that. And I'm like,
Well, and so this is another thing too, and I love artists that are stickler for detail, right? And to his credit, he didn't put anything in here that wasn't in the script. I mean, granted, that being said, he put a lot of little details in, but like, so for instance, I kind of assumed that this would be televised, but when I went back and read the script, there were no mention of TV cameras. So, as the writer, I find, this is how we grow in our profession. There are little things that, he makes it so good that I'm like, oh, well, if I had done this better in the script, he could have even made it even better. So, there are little things like that.
This hasn't gone to print. So if you want it, like, I mean, maybe if there's like a fence right here and there's like paparazzi trying to get through and there's like security back here.
I theoretically we could do that, it's theoretically it's on the table, but I hate to go back to an artist like Doug and say, we fucked up.
Trust me, we've already had to.
Well, I was assuming that there was like that was part of the story, that there weren't that many people there.
Like I said, I mean, as soon as it was pointed out to me, I was like, yeah, he's right. That being said, I know why they wouldn't have a lot of people there. It's because this is the private ceremony before, and I could always put that into the dialogue. So.
Yeah.
Let me grab the super chat because I just noticed it. Dean approved. Thank you for the super chat. Sup, Anna. Just wanted to your Dean approved. I love Fandom Menace / CG crowd. Peace. Well, thank you for the super chat, and thank you for stopping by. Yeah. Well, that completely lost my train of thought here. Is there anything else you guys wanted to highlight in this one, or is there anything else you guys can talk about?
One thing I want to say, if you go back to the first cover, up until this just tells you, I'm just giving background in like when it goes into making comics. Up until like 2 days before we launched, we were fighting about this cover.
Oh, I'm sure.
It wasn't
like move that here, do this, do that.
Yeah, and it was multi-layered too. I mean, so there were some. So Doug works digitally. So when you do when you have a penciled cover that's inked traditionally, it's kind of like you don't really have a whole lot of options, right? I mean, now you can do some digital post stuff, but ultimately, when you have a digital image where everything is on a different layer, it makes it a lot easier to kind of play around with stuff. And I think I think myself and Piper and Optimus will all agree that our first time around, we were much more cavalier about making little changes. So I think we learned lessons, and I think Doug learned lessons too, just in dealing with us.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of ways, like with the script is kind of my thing and the penciling is Doug's thing, but it's things like the cover where we can all come together and truly be a committee that's dysfunctional as any family.
Kevin pointed it out. It was when we first unveiled or started showing this cover that everybody started calling our dude in blue over there Dad Bod. And I was like, you guys, I can't unsee it. And that's nothing like how that character's, supposed to come across.
Dad bod.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. He used to be kind of a little more bigger, bulkier,
But the funny...
that looks like Henry Cavill. I don't know what you're talking
about. He's definitely now.
Well, see what, and this is like, once again, Doug going by the script, because Scott put in the script, what did you put? Muscular.
Yeah.
You put muscular. That's what it was.
Yeah,
and,
not like burly, like a swimmer's build type thing.
Yeah, and of course he made him muscular, like
he was definitely thicker.
Superhero muscular.
But then he was also like, he had a tie and like
and even the tie looked kind of like a little frump,
so he looked originally kind of more like a office worker that just got off from like overtime what is
Xavier called him?
Very depressed. Like
Xavier used the Japanese term is he looked like a salaryman.
Well, the interesting thing is that Doug was taking the references we were sending him, and he was representing them accurately. And so as this is one of the mentalities that, that's a problem in modern comics, is they want to represent reality versus this, heroic ideal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so, God bless him. Doug is an amazing artist, but he's a product of his environment. And, his work at Marvel and places like this and then DC has been affected by what are they looking for, So he makes his portfolio to that. And so he probably has a little less of the old school kind of superheroic proportions and more of the new school. Let's just kind of make it close to realistic, but a little bit off, And so we were struggling with that because our vision is old school superheroic proportions, things like that.
It was kind of like there was a communication
breakdown on our. It was our fault, not his. Fault.
The words we were using and everything, we're being taken more literally than I guess we kind of meant them. So it was definitely a huge learning experience.
I think it was Xavier who finally said athletic.
Yeah,
not bulky, not power lifter, but athletic.
So I'll be honest with you. I really wasn't. I really wasn't involved in this one as much. I had there were colors on this cover were the thing that I was involved with, but the thing that Doug did that really kind of brought it home, I think, for all of us was, we were saying, no, he needs to be thinner in the waist, more wasp waist, and and so he's okay. So you mean like this? And he showed us a waist of just like a very cut out part of a reference, and Piper said, yes, exactly like that. And then he showed us the rest of the person. It was like the super.
They were emaciated. And I was like,
no. Like a concentration camp victim or something.
Yeah. No. Never mind.
He looks great. And then Piper finally found a model, like this guy's actual model who has the proportions, you kind of want it. But what's really funny, if you look at this guy, like, the way he poses, he kind of already looks like a supervillain. So it was working out pretty
perfect.
well.
Yeah. So I gave him references of like this model dude that I had no idea, but like different references kind of to model the face after a little bit.
Now
personality, but.
On the flip of that, when we were talking to Preston about the painted cover, it was literally which one he gave us three poses. Which one you like? I like this one. Then Piper said, I like that one. And then Xavier said, I like the other one. I'm like,
oh no.
Oh, for fun. And then finally, so I said, okay, I finally said, I'll say, okay, if you can't have that one, what would be the other one? And then Xavier said, I like the third one. And then, see, this is I know Preston. He's had to have dealt with this before because he said, third one it is. See y'all later.
Yeah, he was like, all right, it's the third one. Bye. Like, before anybody could change their mind.
Yeah.
What I always did was I was like, I'll make the one that I want. I'm like, that's the one I'm going to put all the time into. And the other ones I'll draw just slightly shittier. And I'm like, which one do you guys like? And then they'll always pick the one that I want.
He actually, like Preston said something similar. The one Xavier picked was the one Preston hadn't planned on doing. He just thought there should be a third option.
Yeah,
and Xavier picked that one.
in the military, we throw that a throwaway course of action,
Yeah.
But
he said he just felt like there should be three, so he made one that he said he thought was boring and wasn't going to get picked. And that was the one that Xavier came in and was like, I like that one, and we're like, Xavier, no.
Well, I just want to highlight something here. I mean, so like I'm technically not part of the graded 0.5 group, right? It's it's these three plus Mike. That's right. I always he's so quiet,
Yeah, and his name is Evil Bob on the stream, so that
too. But and so like I'm coming into this group kind of as an outsider, but they were very welcoming, and one of the things that we had to do, especially once Piper came on board and a lot of decisions started to happen to be made, was we had to work through different visions. Everybody kind of had a different idea of what some of this stuff would be. Like, I'll be honest with you, I said he's an athletic Euro trash kind of guy, and that's it. I didn't, if you meet those criteria, then if you made him look like Alan Rickman, then I would have been okay, because I didn't think I didn't have some sort of a thing he had to fit into. But ultimately,
soccer players.
Yeah, right. Like, with the curly kind of gelled hair or something like that, right? So, I mean, we all had different visions, and there are different things that we keyed in on. And so at the beginning, that was kind of tough, dealing through because when one of us kind of had a strong opinion and the other three were going the other way, or if we're 50-50 or maybe just indecisive as a group. I mean, these are things we had to work through, and it's been at times frustrating, but ultimately very enriching team building experience that we've had to go through. And I just can't wait to continue to work with these guys. I've got the 2 planned books I have coming up are Door Kickers, which is all me, all on my own. And then I've got the Peregrine 2 book. And so I just can't wait to kind of continue to work in this collaborative style because, whether it's Piper with the editing and kind of like, looking at the details and, well, like, why is it this way? Or whether it's, Xavier with deep lore, like, because this piece of deep lore needs to be reflected, somehow. There's always like, different ways that everybody in the team is kind of contributing. And this is the reason why, both Optimus and Xavier are credited with the story equally with me, because these guys were every bit as important in creating the world that this character and the vision for this universe. So, I mean, even though I wrote the script, I mean, whether it's the detail Doug put in on the page or the things Piper saw that were left out that needed to be added back in, or the vision behind the Reconstruction universe from both Optimus and Xavier, this is such a great experience, and I'm looking forward to continuing to working with these guys.
Yeah, we've just to give an idea, like you said, we got, of course, Peregrine 2 is definitely going to happen, but there's already like 5 stories in the works.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so
and tell them about the other planned appearance for Peregrine.
Yeah, been talking to Micah Curtis, who's doing Inglewood, and his Inglewood, his character Elijah has a very street level superhero vibe to it, kind of like Daredevil, and stuff like that. And so we're going to do a crossover with his character.
Well, he was a very ardent supporter of us from the beginning. I mean, I think the second stream that we were all on together talking, where we talked about this stuff, he was actually on that stream, and he loved what we were talking about. And so, he said, "Hey, we're gonna do. I'm gonna do out of my own pocket a team up cover poster. Yeah, team up poster with my character and your character, kind of, and it's an homage to an old DC Batman and Superman poster. And so, his fans and our fans, loved it so much when we kind of put that out there. You can see it. You can find it actually on the bottom of the campaign page if you want to scroll down and check it out real quick.
Yeah, it's around the.
There's the last image.
Yeah, scroll
go back up. Go back up a little.
Yeah, that one.
So that's it, right? It's kind of hard to see in black and white, but so in the original, her pose is Superman and his pose is Batman. Mm-hmm. And so, the fans, like this so much that he's been, basically talked in by the fans to doing a crossover book. So it'll be a one-shot crossover, cool. Yeah. So it's and the cool thing about it is his world is different than her world. Like it's more of a, there's some more magic and some things like that going on. More of a kind of a gritty, supernatural feel. And so, one of these supernatural portals, brings her to his world, and that's where the fun happens. So it'll be cool to see her being handled that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And he's going to be drawing it, right?
But he's the writer.
Oh, writer.
He's
his
the writer.
artist will be drawing
Actually,
it.
well, I better not say anything because we don't have it 100% yet. But we have a good bead on the artist, and let's put it this way: you've already seen him on the page. On this page, I'm just going to leave it at that. Anna's like, "You're doing it again. Give me details."
I know, I'm so nosy, but to change it up, this one looks awesome.
So this is my artist from Door Kickers, Ian Waranto. We were still working on Door Kickers once the Peregrine idea came up, and once we had an idea what her costume was going to be like, I was like, Doug, our main artist, was a little busy at the time. And so I went to Ian. I was like, hey, can you take this costume and this character image and put her into a, just a fantastic superhero heroine pose? And he knocked it right out. And the colorist, Farah Nurmaliza, who's also my colorist on Door Kickers, she did the colors on this. And I think it was the colors on this that really, I mean, if the guys hadn't bought in on Farah from seeing the Door Kicker stuff, it was this image that really kind of sold them on hiring her for the colors. So,
it was fantastic.
It was so funny when she sent back the first, proof color. She literally said on the thing, "What do I do?"
This was when we were just deciding what her costume colors were. So this print kind of served as like practice, almost like
a color guide, almost. Yeah.
So that we could tell her how she's, going to be colored, and she can put it right on this print to get it down. And there was a lot of sending it back and forth with like notes written on it.
It looks fantastic. Even the background, like everything about this, I'm like, this is so pretty.
Yeah, we like to see our bird soar, as they say.
Yeah.
It looks great, and so pretty. So one of her powers, I'm assuming, is that she can fly.
She can fly. Yeah.
Okay.
So let me just give you the official list right now, right? So she can fly, she's invulnerable, and she's super strong. Now, that being said, along with the kind of, raptor, bird of prey, falcon kind of theme, she also has excellent eyesight. And those are the only powers for now that we're going to kind of talk about. Now, there are some other things about her that you don't get into, and then maybe she doesn't even know herself, because her mom was a hero as well. Both her mom and we don't have mutants in our world the way they have, segregated mutants away from regular heroes. I mean, you have people who are born with their powers. We have people whose powers develop later, and we have people whose powers are changed over time. And so, and there's people with tech, that gives them powers. There's people with, no powers like Batman, but they just use smarts and athleticism. So, I mean, you have a full range of kind of power options. And her mom had a different power set than her dad. But when she was born, she essentially had the same powers that her dad had. Can you imagine as a 3-year-old if you could fly?
Oh my God.
I know. So,
could you imagine a bunch of 5-year-olds at a birthday party all flying, hyped on sugar?
Oh my God. Like I said, I've thought about this, and I think I could honestly say that I would tether her to some kind of a, door frame or something if she were my child.
Put a little how they have those collars for dogs, but it's one for kids, so it's if you
But
go
they
above this height.
They have those little harnesses for toddlers still. That you basically have a leash to your toddler, something like that. You just hold it up like this.
I could see her having almost like a dog run, like those cables that the dog can just run back and forth on. So
just running after her.
But so there's more to her. There's, when it comes to hidden depths, it's not just her, so that's a little tease for the future. But, so.
And I don't know if I told you, Scott, but I've just about got her mom's profile worked out. So
awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah. I've got some ideas too. Yeah. I've got some ideas. So we need to talk.
Oh, somebody has an idea. Does she have nails that can turn into talons? Because she's a bird. Birds have talons.
Well, so it's just her big toe. Just her big toe.
But if you look at her, her gauntlets, they kind of they're not really folded over gauntlets. They're kind of sticking out. That's kind of representing of talons.
Okay.
Yeah, it just says So she doesn't have claws. That's more. I think that's more of Piper's baby character in the book is the one with the claws. But
yeah, Piper. First thing she came in, she said, "You know what y'all need? What's that?" She said, "Y'all need a werewolf chick," and we're like, "Okay."
Do it.
For some backstory behind that, every time I am watching, somebody's comic campaign, being featured on a stream, or we feature one on Graded, if I remember, almost every time, I'll be like, "This is great. This is good stuff. You know what your comic needs?"
A werewolf.
A werewolf. And sometimes we'll get, well, there is one. Check this out. or they'll get, I wouldn't fit in this one, and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
But so, it was just a joke, like, oh, yep, that's Piper's, like, thing. So I did it to them. I was like, this is a great comic, you guys. You know what your comic needs? A werewolf. And they were like, yeah, why not? Make one. So I made one, and I made it make sense.
I don't know if you guys watched it, but oh my god, now I'm blanking on what it was called. That Adam Sandler movie where he's Dracula, and then his best friend is a werewolf, and then how like dogs have like litters, so he has like 100 little puppies that are just crazy werewolves, and I'm like,
Hotel Transylvania, right?
Yes, Hotel Transylvania. Yes,
yeah, my kids love that movie. Yeah, I guess it was a show now too, but
yeah, it's like
they did. They made it into a series, I think.
I think my kids have mostly aged out of that, but still, it's it's good fun,
Like this cool story needs more werewolf.
I was about, I just saw that too. I was, that's what I do.
He must be one of Piper's fans because that's
that's exactly what I do.
Cool story, bro. Where's the werewolf?
Needs more werewolf.
Where are the werewolves?
Yeah.
Well, there's a good. If you guys like if you do like a signed thing, like this would be perfect for it. If you have like a poster, like if they reach like a certain tier.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea.
Guys that worked on this because it's got all the space for like autographs.
Mm-hmm. So we did have a limited edition, a limited number of books that essentially all the graded folks and then me will sign because we did a limited number just because. You're going to have to mail it around. None of us are in the same town. So, and I mean, when the book goes to print, I'll be in Korea. So,
oh my.
Yeah. So it'll be like, it's literally, if I'm figuring this right, it's going to go me, North Carolina. So it starts with me, then it's Ohio, Canada, Korea, back to me, ship them out.
Yeah.
That would be insane. So that's like the super high.
Yeah, a lot of mileage on those books. So.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like a lot of them and you have to ship them all. Oh my god.
We limited it to 6 because I said we can't, if we try to do more than that, it would just, I think it would be.
Well, but what we're going to end up having to do though is probably do more like 10 or 20 of them just to guarantee that they're all undamaged by the time they get back.
Oh yeah, I'll be shipping more than just 6, obviously, but
and that'd be a great kind of extra item to sell it for the Fans Fest next year.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Well, see, I was gonna say so for the Fans Fest, because she's very right about this print. Possibly just printing a stack of this print, and to sign at the
for the Fans Fest.
Yeah.
That'd be a good idea.
So, Anna, have you decided if you're going yet or not?
I'm not going.
Oh, come on.
No.
Is it still the worry of Cecil taking your man, Peaceful?
No, Peaches would never come. I would never bring Peaches there. He's saying as far away from Cecil as humanly freaking possible. No, at this point, I've never really wanted to go to Florida, and I don't know.
But that's just it. I don't really care about Florida, but I would go to this event no matter where it was.
Anna, you have to go because you got to see Florida Man in his natural environment.
I don't want to see Florida Man.
I do.
I've read the stories.
Think of all the Fandom Menace people that'll go just alone because Jeremy just lives right around the corner from Orlando, doesn't he?
Jeremy lives in Pensacola, so
that's what I mean. Around the corner.
I've seen Jeremy so many fucking times.
Fuck Jeremy.
but he's gonna draw the Anyway, well, we'll miss you. We'll miss you, Anna. I hope I can come. I'll be in Korea next summer.
Which is supposed to be in Vegas. Now that one is like right there because I'm.
Yeah, that's a little more up my alley, to be honest.
For me, it's just like I-95. I drive down there. That's the way I look at it.
There you go. And I imagine it's like a prettier view driving from North Carolina to Florida, whereas I have to get on a plane.
Yeah. I'm when it comes to planes, I'm like B.A. Baracus from the A-Team. I ain't getting on a plane, animal. I just like if God wanted me to fly and gave me wings, I ain't getting on no plane.
Since at this point, Anna, we've completely derailed the conversation.
Oh, it's okay.
We can get back on track, but I have a question. This is totally just thought this up looking at this print. So this is what my artist did. One of the things I like doing is seeing what other artists come up with, with, given a given certain thing. I mean, every artist kind of has their own take on things, as you know, because you did a recent variant cover for Vampirella. So you were able to put your take on Vampirella. What kind of take would you give on Jessica Peregrine?
I would make her into an orc. Okay, I know that's the weirdest thing. So my favorite thing to draw is orcs.
I was nonplussed there for a second.
I was like, there's no way I can do that with Vampirella, but I just see this, and what I would do is I would turn her green, make her into an orc, and then I would
give her the
bottom right here, like she's dragging Cecil.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
all right, I was a little shocked at first, but I'm on board now.
Well, here, let me show you, because whenever I say that, people like give me the big eyes, like, what the hell are you talking about, you crazy person? I have my sketchbook right here now. Where is it? Okay, got it. So I discovered this because I love Blizzard, or I love World of Warcraft and like the whole concept behind it. And then one day,
Anna.
Wait. Hey!
There we go.
Hey, Anna! Yes! Also, for the horde. So I decided what was I doing? I was doing like concept work, and I was not to dox myself, but I was doing work for this video game company, and I was like, hey, you want to like just show my stuff at Blizzard? Because my friend was working there, and I was like, one of the things that they always say, oh, show something that they haven't seen before. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a bunch of orcs, but I'm going to do like femme orcs, because even in all their art books, they don't really have very many female orcs. So I was like, I'm going to give them all like jobs. Like, this is what this character would be. Like, this is like, I'll make myself big. This is like my blacksmith orc. And so I just found that I really liked drawing orcs, and they were my favorite thing to draw.
Oh, that's good.
I even got into the habit of like drawing, where is it? I started off by drawing kids and like turning children into orcs. And so I found this picture of like these little boys eating watermelons, and I just turned it into blood and meat and stuff. And I'm like, so like, this is like my page of like little boy orcs. And so these are the ones. And then like my little girl orcs. So I just found a bunch of pictures of kids and I turned them into orcs. So I like drawing orcs. I just turn everything into orcs if I can.
I totally approve. If you ever wanted to do a version of Peregrine, make her an orc.
Well, see, just from seeing, I'm not even sharing my screen anymore. Just from this, like, what I would do is I'd maybe move her over and then have Cecil right here, and like Cecil, like with his limbs just all flying, and like her dragging him from behind.
Well, you could totally have him being dragged by the scruff of his neck through the air. I totally get that, man.
Because the way it made me think of Cecil and Cash Grab, because the lighting and the clouds and stuff, because that's like the cover of Cash Grab is like the beautiful blue sky, so it looks like he just did something bad, and then if she's grabbing him and like flying him to the police station, he's just like, oh, the money flying behind him. That
nice.
Would be
all right, if you want the job, Anna, you're hired.
To do people like that?
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
I know. I need to see this now.
And somebody in the chat, I just noticed this a minute ago. Somebody in the chat says like the if you go to Florida, you can meet Carol Baskin.
Ooh.
See, that's my thing. I'm like, I want to go. My friend Drunk 3PO, he emailed them, and he's just like, hey, like, when does the place open? And I was saying this before, because I'm a very small person, so I would need like a security person with me if I went anywhere. And I'm just like, Drunk, I'll go see Carol Baskin. Like, you want to come with me? Because Drunk's like a really big dude. And so he's just like, they said that they're going to open in a couple weeks. And I'm like, just tell them that we're YouTubers and we're going to promote the thing so I can see the baby tigers, because I want to see the baby tigers. So that would be like the only reason I would go to Florida, like that and Gatorland, which is a place where you get to hold baby gators. And I'm like, oh, that's cool.
And you just stop by for the Fans Fest on the way,
Maybe.
All right.
Wow. I'll think about it, but
plus, if you're going to sign the people's Peregrine orc cover, orc cash grab variant cover.
I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. I don't have anything, because it's like for like comic skate and stuff.
No,
like,
it's for all the Kick Vic, or the anti Kick Vic people. It's for the
I was gonna say, I thought it was for Fandom Menace, Comicsgate, and Weeb Wars, all three.
That's what it is. It's for everybody. Yeah, it's for it's for the basically a full fandom. Like everybody gets together, kind of thing.
I feel like I've just learned so much from Cecil about the less that you promise, like the less people have expectations.
Yeah,
it's more of a thing. So I'm gonna say right now, no. But if I am there, it'll be a nice surprise.
It's a bonus. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Just
I learned that the very hard way.
Yeah, don't promise to shave your hair.
Yeah, never again.
Wait, Anna needs to start Orkland. Oh, I would fucking love. I love Orkland. That would be fun.
Regarding her shaven head, when we first started this campaign, we thought we would be doing awesome and lucky and unlikely to hit 30,000. So the fact that we ended the campaign at just $10 shy of $36,000, it's unbelievable tribute to the fans, both of Graded Point 5 and Comicsgate, and we couldn't thank everybody who's done that, help us grow to this point. And it's because of them that we're going to be able to do another one of these books. The money from this book will be able to roll back into the next one. And I think I think Peregrine's got a lot of legs. I mean, and I don't mean that because she's got, wonderful artists drawing her. I mean, because, she's got a lot of story to tell.
Oh yeah, so I usually don't really like it when comics are drawn digitally because I don't know, there's just something about it that I'm like, this
it's not
looks
as warm.
great.
Yeah.
And it's another thing. It's when somebody's drawing something, and especially when it's traditional, they don't have that, Command Z. They can't undo it.
Yeah.
But so the way that your artist drew this, I'm like, it's pretty, even when it's not meant to be pretty. Like, look, she's not making the prettiest face right here, but I'm like, her hair looks nice. Her face still looks nice. Like even this hand with the nails and stuff. I'm assuming that this character with the curly hair, the nails and the spiked ears is maybe not the nicest character.
Yeah. So
she's nice.
Oh, she is nice.
That's the werewolf.
That's my werewolf.
Where's her hair? She's not hairy.
Not yet.
Not yet.
She's got a light coat of fur.
She's a matter I get more wolfy I get.
Yeah, I basically I describe her as this world's kind of Hulk / Beast / little bit Poison Ivy, but
hairy instead of leafy. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, also personality-ish a little bit, but she's for the most part still very different from them. She's
it's so
very
funny,
easy to. She's
and
not,
also
not a mirror of them, basically.
Another thing that's really cool is because of the lore and the characters we already made, we've already come up with great ideas for that character to interact with another character of ours, because it would be funny because just a little taste for her. She's a scientist, right? And so a lot of the stuff that happened to her was because of science, an accident, this, that, the other. And we have another character who's, he's called the Immortal because he's been alive forever, just about, right? And they get along, but they don't get along. It's kind of like, that weird kind of, you think everything, but it's like, well, yeah, I've lived long enough to know everything, kind of thing, So of course I do.
They butt heads, and while he is very social, she is very not. So they butt heads, and she claims that she finds him very annoying.
But she worries about him.
Yep.
Have we posted the new colored page yet?
It should be on there now. I think.
I think you just have to refresh then.
Yeah. It's a little smaller than the other ones, but it's up there. Because it came up as a small PNG for some reason. Anyway, either way, it's up there.
There's that one. Oh, okay.
Yeah, go down.
If
you go back
it's one
down,
of the interior pages. We got a new one, I think, today.
Yeah,
she showed us.
It'll be a little bit smaller than the other.
That's it right there. Yeah.
Oh, that is
also, there's like so there's actually training in this.
That's right. Yeah. So she actually, there's that growth of her powers that I talked about. Now, we don't. It's only a couple pages, but still, it gives you an idea of her journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say that, this page, once again, we were talking before we came on air, we gave Farah no color notes on this page, and she just blew me away with it.
It looks great.
Yeah. The robot shocked me. I did not expect the robot, the training robot, to look like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, seeing it in, as it is now, it just looks amazing. So
I love those moments where you're just, when you're working with somebody, artist or whatever, and you're just like, wow, that's even cooler than the image I had in my head. Like,
yeah.
I always think back to a conversation that Antonio Bryce said he had with Kanan White when they were making Brand. And Kanan apparently included something in the page that, Antonio didn't write. And he's like, Antonio, or that Kanan didn't write. And he's like, Antonio's like, Kanan, I didn't tell you that. He said, no, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. So it's one of those situations where it's like, well, I wasn't expecting that, but I love it,
Mm-hmm. It looks great. And it makes sense that if you're going to be training a superhero, you'd have to have something that could take on a superhero.
Yeah. Yeah.
So who is this character? Who's on the cover?
Well, I was saying, from the dialogue that's in this situation, she's basically saying, "Oh, these training bots. I dealt with these when I was a kid. They're nothing." And then she gets smacked.
Bam.
Yeah,
she was kind of like, oh, "This is fine. I just, warming up, just a little rusty.
Mm-hmm.
I've done this before, but it's been so long."
So Optimus just said something that kind of, I'll ask the question. So why was she training as a kid with these training robots? Well. Mm-hmm. That's part of the conflict that she's facing at the beginning of the book. And this is, so Piper, before you start getting itchy, this is things that have been said before. There's no spoiler.
I wasn't getting itchy. I was nodding. Come on.
Anyway, I know. I just wanted to give you a hard time. Plus, I can't see as well without my reading glasses on. Anyway, the point is that her dad was training her as a child, and especially as a teenager. She always assumed it was like he wanted her to be her little soldier, and to follow in his footsteps and be daddy's little girl. And she resented that. And because her mother died when she was a teenager, that caused this rift. And, her father is the ultimate, public servant, duty before anything. So she didn't quite understand. And he, being a kind of a guy is not a super talkative guy. He didn't know how to explain himself well. And so that caused a rift. And, just like Peregrine Jessica was surprised that he died. I can tell you right now, Silver Falcon, while he was willing to sacrifice his life, he did not expect to die either. He always assumed that he would have another day, more time to be able to soothe the hurt that had happened between them. And so that's where we opened the story. I mean, this is a daughter who has lost a father that she was estranged with. It wasn't because she didn't love him. It was because she resented him. And, when you're growing up, especially in your teen years, there can be some pretty damaging kind of things. And so she's got, daddy issues at the beginning of the book, and that defines kind of how she has, been through her college, years. She's kind of like the daughter of a famous kid or a famous person. It's like Brad Pitt. We all know Brad Pitt has kids or whatever, him, Angelina Jolie, right? But we don't really know much about them for the most part. We know more about the famous parents. Well, that was kind of her. Her dad was one of the most famous people in the world, but she didn't want that, right? At least she didn't think she did. But as you can see in the book.
Let me interject just for a second. Only because I don't really want to call it daddy issues. I want to rather call it superhero issues because when the rift happened, when her mom died, she died, doing superhero stuff, and it kind of said, superheroes or family, you're gonna die for strangers, or
it's like you chose your. If anything, you could say it's. You were a workaholic and you chose work over family. I think the phrase "daddy issues" is a little bit too loaded.
I mean,
yeah, that's why I was like, it's not really daddy issues because
she
it's
has
wrapped
that.
up
I think
100% in the superheroing.
I mean, she
stuff.
was not, this is not like how you think of like the stripper with daddy's issues, right? It's like, it's more like she is estranged from her father because he didn't give her what she thought she needed when she was a teenager. But, and even before the rift occurred, she then resented how he was training her back before they, became estranged. So, there's some realization in this story about how their relationship was as a teenager. And so, I mean, I take what you mean, Piper, and I think you're about half right. I think the other half is directly because of his choices as a father, because he could have decided to hang it up.
His choices afterwards. I was just saying the reason her getting kind of disenchanted, I guess, with the idea of superheroes was when that kind of idea took her mom. And then in a way took her dad, but in a different way. Not death at that point, but burying himself in his work.
So let me just kind of talk about my, as the writer, how I kind of came to some of this as far as my motivations and when I was writing this. So like I have two little daughters, right? And so in the past, I don't know, in the past 10 years, probably, my oldest daughter is 13. I've been away a lot, because of my job in the military, deployments or, short trips, long trips, whatever, in half of this year I spent, so far I spent in Germany and the other half I spent in quarantine, so, and as funny as that sounds, I mean, yeah, I spent a month sitting in either a barracks room or in a camp in the middle of the desert away from my family, literally in the same city, so I know what, I talked to my daughters quite a bit about like, how were you when I was gone? How are you now that I'm back and things like that. Yeah. And I know they both love me, but at the same time, there is a little bit of resentment, or they'll like me and my wife may get in an argument about something and they'll jump in on my wife's side. And so I can see that kind of attachment that I wasn't able to be part of because of my distance with my family. So, and you have to be very deliberate in how you work that stuff out. And I know a lot of guys in my position, because, I work with soldiers. I know a lot of guys that it's just easier for them to be like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to try not to cause trouble and let things go for now. I'll fix things when I have time later, and that's literally the mentality. He's like the soldier who's off to war and he's just going to fix it when he gets back. Yeah. But like many soldiers, he doesn't come home, and he's not able to fix those problems. And so, so that's a reality that I've dealt with, in the past 15 years. And so that's something I kind of brought to, so I'm really looking forward to kind of writing Silver Falcon down the road, because I really understand the duty that takes him away from his family, but I also understand the struggle that he has, because it's not because he doesn't love them. It's because he loves them that he does the service that he does.
Yeah.
So.
And then I feel like it's one of those things that you don't realize, especially when you're younger, because I had that problem with my parents. It's like you resent them because you don't understand. And then as an adult, it's like, okay, I understand, there's realities of the world. Like you got to do work so you can pay bills, so you guys can like have a roof over your head and eat. A kid doesn't understand that until you actually get a job and you have to work and you have to pay bills. Yeah. And obviously that's different than being a superhero or being in the service, but she's going to learn that. And probably once, I'm assuming, this is me, that I don't know any of this because nobody has told me, but this is just me making my assumptions of that as she becomes a hero, she's going to understand her father more and maybe come to regret that resentment that she had for him. That's just my
wow. You mean, it sounds like you have a story you want to tell there. And maybe we should consult with you.
That's what I'm assuming. But yeah. So if you're writing all of this, but you have, the job that you have, how did you get into writing comics?
Well, I mean, that's kind of a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. When I mean long story, it takes place over like 25 years. So in the mid 90s, I started getting into creative writing. I have a degree in art like you. But I was much more fine art and landscapes and things like that. I had some thoughts for a while that I'd try to become an animator, but that was at the tail end of when, physical animation was going on, and it wasn't really a growth industry. And so I started kind of getting into creative writing, and I was a comic, fan during the 90s. And I got to be friendly with a comic book writer. And he's like, dude, you got great ideas. You should, here's a script. Here's how you write a script. And so he sent me one of the scripts. He was a guy who worked for Image at the time. And he's like, here's one of my scripts, why don't you do a 6-page backup story, and I'll see if I can get my editor to buy it. And while that didn't work out, it was kind of like, oh, well, this comic book stuff is not as hard. It's not, I could do this. Right. And I also wanted to be a screenwriter. And so I got really more into screenwriting ultimately, because there was more of a future, I thought, there. And I optioned a couple scripts in the 90s. Got paid, I was a college kid, so getting paid $3,000 for a script was like, oh my God, that's big money, And so, that never went anywhere, of course. And, I was a web developer. That was my job after college. And then ultimately after 9/11, I decided, I was going to be in the Army in the 90s, but they did the drawdown. And then, so I decided to go back in. And so I started doing that. And, fast forward, after a couple deployments, I started thinking, comic book ideas related to the military. And that's really where I developed Door Kickers. One of the things when you have to worry about terrorists all the time is you don't want to think about like worldly villains, like kind of realistic stuff. You want to think of supernatural stuff. And so that's where I came up with the idea of, special operations fighting against like Lovecraftian demons and stuff like that. So that's where Door Kicker came from. And then so this is all just kind of simmering over time. And then 2014 came around, and the buddy who was the image writer back in the 90s, he's doing his own comic publishing deal. And he's like, hey, I know you're a good writer. He and I kept in touch over the years. He's like, why don't you do a military thing for this book this anthology book I'm putting together, showcase my company. I was like, sure. And so that was the official birth of Door Kickers. And the first 10-page story was created for that. His company, unfortunately, didn't work out. And so I just kind of walked away. But then Comicsgate happened. And after about 6 months of my interaction with Comicsgate, I was like, dude, this is my shot to make something on my own. I've already got, the 10 pages of Door Kickers that I can use as a kind of a stepping stone. And so that's how last year I came around to publishing Door Kickers. And, everybody that's in Comicsgate's been so welcoming and so helpful. It's been such a great incubator for somebody like me who wasn't sure if they could do this. I've had experience with project management. I've always been a little bit entrepreneurial as far as my ideas go. And I was creative as a writer. So everything came together within Comicsgate, and people were, very receptive. I don't have a YouTube channel like a lot of people do, because I just don't have time in my, I barely have enough time to do the comic stuff that I do. But, so, it's just been luck, a lot of luck, because, if I was where I am today, but 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do this. The IndieGoGo platform that allows us to do the crowdfunding this way, the kind of melding of talent, having a guy like EVS to be able to showcase up and coming independent comic talent and to put the word out there. Smaller channels like Graded 0.5. I mean, these are all key elements that, without any one of them, the whole thing can't work. So it's this kind of interesting, zeitgeist that's occurring around Comicsgate that's provided the critical mass that allows this independent comics movement to really take off. And I'll be honest with you, I think when they write the history book about Comicsgate 10 years down the road, I think, this is going to be an important part of the revitalization of independent comics.
That was a nice monologue.
Well, I like to hear myself talk.
No, it's like it's good when it's refreshing when people actually have something to say that actually means something, because so many people, they talk and it's just you just, your eyes glaze over because they're not talking about anything that actually means something. But that was a really nice story.
Well, if you like that, just wait till you and I have a chance to talk about Star Wars, because I got things to say about Star Wars.
Oh,
Star Wars right now though.
Just remember, the great thing about new Disney Star Wars is it's a corporate product, right? And all it takes is new leadership and a new infusion of money. And they basically say, we don't really like that. We're going to reboot this whole thing, or we're going to change this. Now, if they said reboot Star Wars, I would groan and I probably wouldn't be into it. But if they did it right, it could work. It could work. And my mind is open to new things, when it comes to Star Wars, but it has to be done in the spirit of 77. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the stuff that they have now is just complete trash. But Piper and Optimus, I mean, you guys trusted Scott with writing this. You guys happy with how it's turned out?
After we fixed it, yeah.
That's why I like these guys, man. I mean, it worked out.
And honestly, it's because Scott explained, he was in quarantine, he was away, and there was a lot of lost contact.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah, the thing is, since he's doing what he's got to do, yeah, there's chunks of time where we're completely out of contact, and we're just like, well, I don't know what he was going with this, and he's not around to ask, so we're just gonna do this.
and then we do it, and then we run it, and we say, hey, we did this, and he's like, that works.
Yeah, that's that. I think that's one of the things I don't know that this needs to be said, but I think it's worth saying is that the four of us are co-equal owners on this book, right? And so what that means is that, while I am also the writer, I'm also an owner. Piper is the editor, but she's also an owner. Graded 0.5 and Optimus, and they are owners first, and then they are whatever they bring to the project. And so we have each, when it comes down to it, this is great. I love this one because it's perfect. It's indicative of what it is. We all care about this project so much. A lot of times little details will become sticking points, like the size of a drone, right? And I had strong feelings about this, but the other three either disagreed with me or didn't care. And so when it came down to it, even though I felt strongly about it, I had to let it go because ultimately I'm only 1/4 of the ownership. It's not like Door Kickers where I could just have it my way because it's the world that I wanted to make. It's a vision of compromise. And I think ultimately that's going to make a better book. I mean, the great books from the DC and Marvel era of the 80s, these were not singular visions of an auteur like Star Wars, right? That was a singular vision of George Lucas, right? He paid for it essentially, financed it in a way that allowed him to have creative, that wasn't the case for those great comics. They may have had strong creative, visual styles and strong creative writers, but they also had strong editors in chief that really drove the train and made sure that the continuity and everything worked within the Marvel house style or the DC house style.
It's kind of like having our, saying that kind of made me think of this because what you said, about everybody being, co-inker of Peregrine, but as we know, like I said, we talked about it earlier, Xavier came up with the lore of the universe.
Yep, that's right.
And
we all had it.
I was about to say, it's kind of like Xavier set up this playhouse. Mm-hmm. And some of us own some of the action figures or dolls in this playhouse, but we're all playing in this playhouse together. And then sometimes I kind of feel like I'm a ref, when there's something when there's something going on, sometimes you got to be like, no, but that toy wouldn't do that.
But
they shouldn't be there.
Yeah, but the key is that ultimately the disagreement and the working through it, we grow to understand more about the shared vision. We, like if I haven't thought about something and Xavier says it needs to be this way, and I don't necessarily agree with that, then he makes me understand why it needs to be that way. And, and then I will counterpoint with something and he'll like, oh yeah, that's true too. And so we come to that kind of understanding to where as creative people, we can agree on something that is ultimately a compromise of our original vision. So, and that's the cool thing. We all are willing to give ground. We're all willing to put ideas in. Nobody's holding back, and we all respect each other. And I think that's what's going to ultimately make this book and subsequent books work. And it'll only get easier as we go. I mean, we're kind of working through this, this is the first book for the graded 0.5 team. They're learning so much, and the next one is just going to be so much smoother.
I feel like we'll be able to start doing this a little faster each time as we get in the swing of it. This is definitely a learning experience.
I won't be up at 8 in the morning trying to figure out how to get the campaign to work right. Why I hit the launch button and it won't launch. That was hilarious. Like the night we launched, I'm gonna launch at 9 o'clock, boys. I'm like doing. We went on an hour before the stream and everything. 9 o'clock, I'm launching, and I hit the launch button. It said, "You didn't do something." I'm like, "What do you mean?"
The funny thing is, and if you were to go back and listen to the stream where we launched. Like half the stream, he's not even on there because he's like doing.
He's still setting it up. We were still setting it up while streaming. Our original, because the trailer that's up there wasn't the original trailer we had at first. Optimus, he was still making the trailer while we were streaming about getting ready
while we were streaming.
Yep.
Literally building the airplane in flight. So but I wouldn't have had it any other way. I mean, bumps and bruises that we all got to our egos along the way. I think, this has been a great thing. Piper is going to be able to look back and this is her first book that she's worked on as an editor. So she's going to learn a lot as soon as we get out of the, now that we're in demand and we're really kind of starting to put the book together. I've just learned a whole lot of lessons working door kickers, and I want to make sure she learns those same lessons. With this book.
I'll say this is just my first comic book working as editor, not copy editor, but I've done books.
The point is this kind of a role, and so I think it's we're all learning a lot, and we're all willing to listen to everybody else, and everybody's been super respectful. So I can't complain at all about my experience. I may not have always got my way, but who does in a committee, right? And we're working as a well-oiled committee.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I went, like I said, everybody's contributed. Like my thing, I just kind of have overall big boy stories things, it's like, I think this would be a cool idea.
This book would be nowhere if it wasn't for graded 0.5 and the fan base that Optimus and this team has grew. So the graded 0.5 family and the graded 0.5 channel have been instrumental to the success of this book.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to
sell yourself short.
I want to thank you for letting us borrow your audience that you built so that we could show them this book too.
Oh, no problem. Yeah. I was talking to Scott before you guys came, but this is something that I really like, and I know that something about my audience is they love Star Wars. They love superheroes, and I wasn't expecting that when I did, because the best video in my channel is that Star Wars girl, because I love Star Wars and I've always been known as that weird Star Wars girl. But my channel, it skyrocketed when I started talking about Marvel, and I was like, what is for this bitch Brie Larson talking about? What? I was like, I've been watching these movies for almost 10 years now. I watched Iron Man go from the spoiled rotten brat to this decent guy, and this friendship and everything that Cap and Bucky have gone through. 10 years, and you're just gonna throw this chick in at the last freaking minute? no, I will not tolerate that. And then I was like, wow, my audience really likes it when I talk about superheroes.
Oh man, you want me to come yell about Brie or about freaking Captain Marvel or Ray? I'm down because
God.
both of them are just as insufferable. Like,
Well, when I was seeing this, I was like, wow, this looks really good. This doesn't look like those Mary Sue type characters. Like this.
And that was a big thing that all of us agreed on, that we wanted to avoid that. Because yes, she is the, like I said, she's the daughter of
got it right here. You guys saw training. That's more than I ever saw with Ray or Captain freaking Marvel.
Yes,
tell me about it.
Yeah, like our big thing was like, she's a legacy character, and she's getting built up like a legacy character should be built up. She doesn't take the name Silver Falcon, for example. She has her own name. I've always said I like legacy characters, don't get me wrong, but I never said there should never be another Batman that isn't Bruce Wayne. There should always be Bruce Wayne as Batman. Like Nightwing become the heir apparent, or Red Robin or whoever, but I've always said Batman should be Bruce Wayne, or that's just the way it should be. So most of the like if we're having a situation where a character is killed off, retires, or something like that, they will be, quote, somebody will step into their role. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to step into their costume. You know what I mean? So that was always our thing. We wanted
that replace a character with a new original character, but they could still, fill that void. Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to make a girl, and I'm going to put her in a suit of armor, and I'm going to call her Iron Man.
No, you're gonna make her Iron Man, but you're gonna call her Iron Heart.
No, remember first she was Iron Man.
Yeah, first she was Iron Man. Just
I don't remember because I don't
Thor
read trash
is no
comics.
longer Thor is no longer Thor's name. Thor is now a title. What?
Yeah.
What is his name?
Yeah, Thor Odinson is apparently not Thor Odinson.
It's a title now.
And I was like, oh, my head hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and so that was our. That was all, that thing, and like I said, as far as the world goes and all that stuff, we wanted something that was kind of like our world, but a little bit different. That's why we changed some things historically, make them prominent and whatnot. Because I remember when we were talking, that was like, I guess you could say my contribution or whatever. When Xavier was saying, well, maybe he should save this experimental rocket thing or something like that. And I said, I got a better idea. And I said, how about the Challenger? And he was like, he said, that sounds like a really good idea.
So the one big bummer about their universe is that they never got the cool Christy McAuliffe jokes in 1986, like I had when I was a kid.
I was what grade was I in when that happened? 86. I was in second, third grade, something like that. Good gracious.
You guys want to hear a tasteless joke about Christy McAuliffe?
Not particularly. But you're going to tell it anyway, aren't you?
That's right. How did they know that Christy McAuliffe had dandruff?
Oh, God.
Because her Head and Shoulders washed up on shore.
Oh, no.
That was terrible.
Ooh.
My son.
I'm an Army guy. What do you expect? I actually know 5 dead baby jokes without even thinking about it. So
that's you're a terrible person.
That's true.
You're fired.
I don't know if you're telling darker humor jokes, but the thing that I know, like with all the jokes, I know so many blonde jokes because my mom is like bleach blonde, and so she always hated it because everyone wants to tell her a blonde joke. So me and my sisters were like, he. It's like, Mom, the blonde da-da-da. And she's like, God damn it, girls, you and the blonde jokes.
Well, then since you guys had the rivalry, then you know this one, right? What's brown and white and black and blue and laying at the bottom of a swimming pool?
I don't know.
A brunette that told one too many blonde jokes.
No.
I think the one I remember was how do you drown a blonde? And say how you put a mirror
scratch and sniff at the bottom of a pool.
Yeah,
I knew that one. No, I told my mom, I was like, why did the blonde have square boobs?
Oh boy, why?
She forgot to take the tissues out of the box.
Oh, nice.
I remember
I
heard
remember.
that one, and I
I've
thought
heard
I
that
was
one
like
before.
I thought it was so funny, and I went up and told it to my mom, and she's like, "Yeah, haha, you think I haven't heard that one?" And I was just like, I thought it was fun.
That's so funny.
Well, at least your character's not gonna have to worry about that. Is there a reason why you made her brunette instead of blonde?
Well, I think we had to, just looking through different superheroines. There's too many blondes, in one regard, and I just like brunette. So that's preference.
So I mean, I can't remember who made the decision. My thought, I think I remember thinking like, okay, I see her as being an analog in a lot of ways to Power Girl. Whether it's the boob window or her figure or whatever. But one of the things that I wanted to make sure, because you had Supergirl and you had Power Girl, and they were both blondes, and actually aren't they the same person? Like just time slipped.
Yeah, technically same person.
If you're going to draw comparisons, that's one of the areas where it'd be easy to differentiate. I'll be honest with you. I kind of always liked brunettes over blondes growing up. And, not to say that I'm saying that to suck up to Anna here, but it just happens to be true if you look at all my ex-girlfriends.
Brown hair's the best. I'm biased though.
But there's a lot of little things. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I won't lie. I mean, I'm a guy. I like to see a curvy woman like this, and that's one of the reasons why. I mean, I wanted. That being said, she's still going to have all the intricacies and all the depth. Because Annie, you're a pretty girl. You don't lack in that department, and you still have had plenty of challenges. I mean, just because you're pretty and you're attractive doesn't mean that you don't face challenges in your life. And sometimes
or like people just write you off as not being intelligent, or they say you only get this because of this, and it's like no, not really. You got to do all this other shit.
Well, and that doesn't even discount like kind of traumas that have happened to your life. Like, so for instance, Jessica lost her mother. She had a father who wasn't there when she thought she needed him. She was raised in a very kind of antiseptic, she had people taking care of her, so she was confused, and this is trauma that happened to her that she's now kind of having to deal with, and so all that being said, she's also very statuesque. She's, she has the physical assets to present a very great image to the world, but that doesn't mean that's what's going on the inside. And so that's kind of how I tried to approach her. And I tried to just write her in a way a real person would respond to some of this stuff. I mean, given the same situation, the same, life situation that she's had. So,
yeah. And I mean, it gives her like something to fight for, especially when you're dealing with the loss of someone and having to deal with that. That's a very tough thing to do, and that's something that takes a lot of time. But then also having to, I'm like, obviously this is from her dad, so it's like having to pick up that mantle and having to live basically, from what I'm assuming from you guys have told me, from what I've got from this campaign, is she's had to live in her father and mother's shadow her whole life, and so now she's got some pretty big shoes to fill.
Right. And that may not necessarily be imposed upon her by other people. They may not be, but that doesn't mean that isn't how she's going to feel. She's always going to compare herself to her father and to her mother. The father is really the theme of this story, the relationship with her and her dead father. But as the story continues, then she's going to have to deal with the loss of her mother.
Yeah.
And so, because she's always been able to just kind of take, she doesn't have to necessarily have that catharsis with the loss of her mother, because she's been able to direct it at her, at her father, And so now she's alone in the world, and she's 22 years old, and she's having to figure this stuff out. And, oh, by the way, things with her dad weren't as they appeared, like as far as the conflict between the two of them. So, she's having to deal with that. And so she's going to now have to second guess her own decisions. Why was I angry when he was trying to do something good for me? So, this is just the complexities of problems that real people deal with. And they don't just go away at the end of a 30-minute, episode on a cartoon or something like that. So, so that's what we wanted to bring to this. Oh, by the way, we want to bring cool action, awesome aesthetics, great art, flashy sidekick type, secondary characters. She's got a mentor who is a veteran hero. She's got like all kinds of people around her. And ultimately at the end of the book, you get the payoff and you get this beautiful costume and it allows her to kind of, be reborn at the end as the Peregrine, So, I really feel strongly about this book. I mean, I think we did good as a team, but I think it's just, there is very much the whole is greater than the sum of its parts,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so much to it. And I mean, just each image, I'm like, there's more to the story and I want to see more, which I think is, it just shows that there is more, because if there wasn't, there wouldn't be more for me to see and to like pick out every single image that you guys have. So I'm very nosy. So I'm like, what does this mean? What does this mean? No, what's this? What's this? And like reading between the lines kind of stuff. And especially in comic books, as I'm learning more and more, the more I talk to comic people, especially when you're drawing, it's like every little thing means something. It's not like a movie set where they just have a bunch of extras dressed up and it's like, oh, that person's in that one costume. Does that mean this, this, and this? And then it never amounts to anything because TV nowadays suck. But with this, it's like everything that's been drawn into a comic, there's a reason for that. And I'm like,
well, that was our thing. We didn't want conversations about, what are we having for dinner? Let's
sit in a coffee shop and talk about how we feel.
Yeah, we had to cut out all of the parts where she had to go to the bathroom because it was getting too long.
Yeah, we knocked down 80 pages just by doing that.
Just cutting out every meal and every bathroom break. Yep.
Though there is a bar scene with her sitting down at a bar and talking to a boy. So I mean, we had
that might be the most real world we get on this.
We had to kowtow to current day comics, somehow. But unlike current day comics, we actually made it important to the story. So that's why it stayed in there.
I mean, I told this to Von Kloss when he was talking about Monster MD on John's channel. It's like, if you guys have like maybe in the next book, if you have like one of those tiers where it's like get yourself drawn in, and it's like you guys probably could have had it on this one where it's like, oh, be drawn as one of the people in the funeral. Like, oh, if you pay this much,
that's actually a good idea.
If you pay this much, you get to be a superhero.
Well, we did have a drawn in tier for 3 of the thugs, the super thugs that appear in the book. So.
Yeah, and once again, I'm gonna say this as I said earlier on another stream. Wonder Girl 60, if you're listening, contact me.
Yeah,
we need your photo references.
I need them. Get to it.
Yeah, because I've got 2. Like I said, we had 3 tiers for that. We had 2 male goons and 1 female goon, and so we're waiting for the third. We're waiting for the female goon. So we got the other 2, so we're just waiting for the last one. But if I could, we'll say something real quick, and I have to mention this. I say this just about every time. If it won't, like when Piper was brought in on editor, I'll be honest with you. If it wasn't for Piper, help getting, and you've had cats, right? Mm-hmm. Have you ever tried to herd a cat?
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, that was Piper's job. She was like, trying to get all these people to, it's like, okay, you come over here, you stand there. Now you stand over here. Now you stop that and go over here. Quit playing with that string. And that was basically her trying to get us all organized, because if she hadn't come along when she did, we'd probably still be waiting to launch this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. When it came to the organizational and project management piece, I was tapped out between being in Germany at the time when we were really getting working, and then also, I was up to my eyeballs because a lot of stuff was coming to head on Door Kickers too. So I was like, listen, guys, I can write this thing and I can help out, but I just can't do much more than that. And so Piper really came in at an awesome opportune time to really pick up the ball and take it in, because so I was writing it. Doug had already come in and agreed to work on it. And it was right when we needed to start getting Doug sped up on art was when she was able to come in and really be that interface for the team, to really be this traffic cop and, bring things together. So Piper just, she's been awesome.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, she's like I said, it won't for her. I mean, she helped put the campaign together on the campaign, and we've discovered something. Never try to put a campaign together where 3 of you are trying to do it at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because you overwrite each other's work.
That's tough. But, like I was saying before, I mean, while it's a challenge when you have 4 people, there's also so many benefits to having 4 people, and we've learned how to, magnify the benefits and decrease the challenges. So I'm sure there'll be more challenges on the next campaign, but it'll be way more smooth. Everybody will know their job going into it. There will only be one person on the campaign page. There will only be one person writing the book. There will only be one person drawing the book. There will only be one editor. We will have Xavier feeding us all the kind of the world building stuff that he's awesome at doing. And, Optimus will be standing there with his hands on his hip, just saying, "Come on, guys, get it done."
Yeah, like this.
That's right.
Yeah,
Just like that.
just like that.
That's actually him. Well, he got drawn in there. He looks exactly like that.
And let me address this real fast. Yeah, Trevor, I know YouTube has ghosted. I've been shadow banned on here because I said something that they didn't like. So I apologize to my guests. Usually my streams are much fuller, but YouTube does not promote my channel anymore. That's why I have to build up my Twitters, and that's why I can't get rid of it, because Twitters is where I get 80% of my audience from.
Ethan had that 3-hour stream that it's like it wouldn't even show up as one of my subscribed videos. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. That happens to me all the time. It's like, especially with Ethan's stream, it's like I don't get notifications, and then when you pull it up on YouTube, it doesn't show that he's live. Right. I have to like pull it up on my phone, go to his channel, and then I have to click on videos because it doesn't show up immediately.
Yeah.
Right.
Videos, it appears there on my phone, and then I have to email myself the link.
Yeah,
and then I can open it up on my computer.
So I don't
for about a month too.
Yeah, I don't get notifications on my computer or my iPad, but I get the notifications on my phone. So if I don't see the notifications there, I don't even know people are alive half the time. So you just get lucky.
Like I just checked too when like a minute ago, and I was like, I went on my channel, and for me, it doesn't even appear on my own channel that we're live, and I'm like, it's so frustrating because YouTube will work the weirdest ways sometimes, and it's like, this is not beneficial to you because this is your platform. You would think you would want to promote people on your platform, but that's why I have a Discord and a Twitter, everyone, so that way I post everything there. Like what Trevor said, he's like, if I didn't know that you were scheduled, like he wouldn't have known. So I apologize to everyone in the chat and all my guests as well. YouTube just hates me right now, and it's like, ugh, what did I do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that's another thing. Everybody in your chat, I know you've got a very engaged audience. So make sure if you're in the chat right now, just get out there and share the link on, Twitter. Make sure, or Facebook, or whatever social media you use, and get the word out so that people can see this stream and all your other ones too. I mean, I think Twitter, the place I was really surprised, because I mean, relatively speaking, Comicsgate and Phantom Menace channels are fairly small, but like, guys like Tim Pool, when Tim Pool gets ghosted, I mean, he's got like, his live streams, he gets 10,000 people at a time on his live streams. And, he's got over 1 million followers and things like that. And he's still, guys like that are getting ghosted. I mean, the only thing you can do is just share it out there and get the word.
Oh yeah, I mean, even PewDiePie was ghosted for a minute. I didn't know that he was live, and I got a notification for one of his videos that came out days ago, and I clicked it because I like to look at the way that he sets up his videos and like his algorithm, because obviously it's PewDiePie algorithm gold. And I clicked on his channel. I was like, what the hell? He's live? And I was like, when did he start live streaming on YouTube? Because he had a contract with D Live. And then I went down the rabbit hole. I was like, oh shit, all this shit happened. I didn't know. I've been in a hole currently. I was like, wow, so he's streaming on YouTube now. That's
is he still the number one YouTuber?
No, well, independent person, yes, but T-Series is.
Oh, they finally passed him up.
Oh, they passed him up a while ago.
Well,
I guess
there's some controversy. there's a controversy with
because
T-Series.
they have like the big bot networks out of India that
Yeah, and they're an Indian company too. So there's a lot of
hanky panky
shenanigans going on there, as they say. But yeah, so you have any more questions?
I know it's getting late for you guys. I apologize for that. Right off the bat, nothing that I think that I can ask you guys that you guys would be able to tell me. Aside from how much or how long is this going to be on in demand? Are you guys going to end it soon?
I'm figuring at least through the summer.
Okay.
Generate some more sales, because summer's coming up, and all that good stuff. I mean, so maybe September, October, close it out, and then.
When will you guys be shipping out?
Well, I put a year from April, so it's like April 2021 to give us plenty of time to do it. But I definitely want to do that before April 2020.
Yeah, it was more put something safe because we don't know yet.
So
how long will take.
I've already kind of done some of the math, and based on Doug's schedule and Farrah's schedule, we should have art and colors done by September-ish. And so if we're working letters, like, if every time we get 10 full pages done and we send it to Eric Weathers, who's our letterer, but we didn't mention him, but we should because he's awesome. If that's the case, then we could probably have it pre-pressed, done in September, send it off to the printer, hopefully by October. So, fingers crossed, everybody will be getting little packages with Peregrin in it before Christmas. That being said, that's not a promise. That's just kind of back of the napkin math. But,
optimism.
I mean, so I thought I was going to have door kickers out in February, and it's June right now, and I'm sending the print file off this week. So,
that was another reason I gave ourselves a year, is because the way things are going, you never know what's going to happen.
It's like what next can happen. I saw an article, or like a little picture of an article going around on Facebook, and it's like the forest outside of Chernobyl is on fire, so there's radioactive forest fires, and it's like, what else could happen this year?
Well, I personally am waiting for the war with China, but then again, that might take me out of the Comicscape business altogether if that happens.
And then I saw the other day, it's like, I think it was this past weekend, I think it passed by, but it said like there was a near Earth asteroid that went by.
Yeah.
Because I remember somebody posted and they said, "Good." Just get it over with.
What else could possibly happen? I saw this one meme, and it's like, this is what happened in January. This is February, March, April, May, July. It's like, what else could possibly? Where are the zombies at this point? It's like,
I know, right? Well, I mean, everybody's bought the guns, so we're ready for the zombies. When I heard the gun shops in LA, where you're from, Amanda, were selling out, I was like, holy cow, man, the world's coming to the end.
Well, see, it's like I grew up in the middle of California, like on ranches and stuff. So I've always been around guns, and I've always known how to shoot guns. So it's like coming down here, like I already had, guns and stuff. And I'm just like, it's fine, at least for me. But when people don't know how to use them or don't, they go and buy a handgun, and I'm like, have you ever shot it? And they're like, no. And I was like, just waiting for that kick, because it's not going to be fun.
Yeah,
you don't want the first time you need to use a gun to be the first time you've ever used a gun.
That's exactly right. You gotta get training. I'm a big Second Amendment guy. I think it's great that people who have never had or needed a gun are buying guns, but they also need to get training, and you need to make sure you understand the fundamentals of gun safety. So
I think some people, they see movies and it's like, oh, well, it's not that hard, and then they try it and it's like,
well, honestly, it's not that hard. Thousands of soldiers go carrying loaded guns every year without killing all their buddies. Somehow you're able to do that. The problem is that you do need to learn some basics in order to get there.
Learn how to stand and how to aim. And since I'm a very tiny human being, it's like it does hurt. Like with some guns, like it hurts me to use. So I'm like, I don't even want to use them. But I try not to talk about that too much on my channel with stuff, just because I try to keep it as apolitical.
Apolitical, absolutely.
Yeah,
exactly. We're here to sell hot dogs.
Yeah, but when it comes to guns and stuff, I'm like, as long as you're not a psychopath, like, I mean, kids have squirt guns. You can go paintballing. That's a type of gun. It's not, I don't see that as like a political thing. I know some people do and go crazy, but I'm like, how? You know? And I mean, I feel like I've told the story where it's like, yeah, we had a cow. And then, like most cows do, they move to the freezer in a few months, you know? And so it's like, I'm used to that.
Well, we're talking about training. Like, my training was literally, go out with your pops and go on a hunting trip and, that kind of thing. That's my training, and I totally agree. If you don't have that available to you, definitely get to a range and learn how to do it from a, certified person,
Yeah.
like that.
I've had training with bows, so I'm sure that'll help one day.
The only problem
when we all run out of bullets.
Yeah,
I'll be there with the long bow
Piper will be,
and my pointy elf ears. Just
freaking, what was her name from the Hunger Games? You'll be.
Oh yeah, Katniss. That'll be me.
Laura Croft. She didn't have guns anymore. She's got a bow and arrow now, and I was like,
there you go.
There we go.
Yeah. Laura Croft at home, dual wielding 2 Desert Eagles is too much. Let's give her a bow and arrow.
Well, I mean, what's Elmer Fudd gonna hunt with?
Oh, it's a scythe or whatever it's called. Yeah, I did a video on that today, and I'm like, this is gonna.
So
like,
that is real. That is confirmed real. What they're
Yeah, I saw you go live on that earlier. I was like, holy cow.
I'm just like this.
I'm sorry, but that seems a lot more violent and darker than just giving him a hunting rifle. What?
I know, because the thing is, like, when I'm like, if anything, it's making fun of him because the animals constantly outsmart him. And when he shoots Daffy in the face, Daffy's beak just goes like onto the other side of his head. It's like the smoke that says "bam" or "pow" or something, and then it does that.
I was gonna say those animals are constantly taking his gun and like tying it in knots or plugging it and like it blows up in his face.
So that way it shoots it. I'm like, it's
well, yeah, but I mean, this is. I just wondered if he could hunt a rabbit with dynamite. Could you do that? Is that okay?
You're allowed. The only thing they're taking away is his gun. They're not. He gets to use knives, axes, anvils, pianos, TNT.
Yes, excellent. As long as we still can do car bombs and things like that in cartoons. And I don't mean to drink.
The censorship is just getting out of hand, and that's one thing that bothers me because I'm like, if you're a kid and you're aware of it at an early age, if anything, it helps prevent stuff. Like when they took away the fact that Iron Man was an alcoholic, and I'm like, that would have taught a lot of little kids. Why couldn't Iron Man save those people? Oh, it's because he was drinking alcohol. Alcohol is bad. I'm not going to do that when I'm a grown-up. Iron Man couldn't save people. He couldn't be Iron Man because of this. So it gets in an early age. Alcoholism is bad. Let's not do that. But they took that out so kids aren't learning that. And I'm like, you guys are just, with all the censorship, it's hindering your stuff.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's the world in which, and to kind of bring it back to our book, I mean, that's the world in which we live in that has brought us to the point where we feel like, we are called to make this comic,